Good morning, everyone. I'm here today in the maxgeo office in Fremantle with Lenore and Mikey. Lenore and myself are senior data consultants, and Mikey is our lease control product manager. If you have any questions as we go, just put those into the chat box. For years, mining and exploration companies have invested heavily in software to manage their data. Yet despite this, many teams still face the same challenges: delayed workflows, disconnected systems, and data that can't be trusted when it matters the most. At maxgeo, we've recognized a fundamental shift. The problem isn't a lack of tools, it's a lack of connected, fit-for-purpose solutions. Rather than focusing on individual tools, we focus on solving the root problem: how to create aligned, trusted data across the entire workflow. This means designing solutions that standardize data at the point of capture, automate validation and quality control, remove manual handoffs between systems, and provide full visibility from the field to decision making. The goal is simple: one version of the truth that every team can rely on. I'm going to start by talking about this from a drilling management perspective: how we manage, move, and trust our data, and how tools like logchief Lite and datashed 5 are changing the way we respond to it. In exploration, everything starts in the field. That's where data is generated meter by meter, sample by sample, log by log. Field teams are capturing critical geological, geotechnical, and operational information that ultimately drives our understanding of the area. But despite how critical that data is, the way it moves from the field to the office is often far from ideal. One of the biggest challenges we see across the industry is poor coordination between field teams and office-based staff. These groups are working towards the same goal, but often with different tools, different systems, and different timelines. Field teams are focused on capturing data quickly and efficiently, often in remote and challenging environments. Meanwhile, office teams are waiting on that data to begin interpretation, modeling, and decision-making. When those two worlds aren't well connected, friction is inevitable. And that friction shows up in delays. Delays in accessing drilling data are incredibly common. Data might be recorded in spreadsheets, stored on local devices, or managed in systems that don't easily sync with the office. Sometimes it's emailed at the end of the day, sometimes it's uploaded in batches, and sometimes it's physically transferred by someone manually typing it in. Whatever the method, the result is the same: a lag between when data is created and when it can actually be used. And in an environment where decisions are time sensitive, that lag matters. Adding to this challenge is the reliance on non-cloud systems. Many traditional workflows were designed for a different era, one where real-time connectivity wasn't expected or even possible. These systems can limit accessibility, making it difficult for distributed teams to collaborate effectively. You'll likely have data sitting in one location while the people who need it are somewhere else entirely. That disconnect slows everything down. Then there's the issue of manual processes. In many operations, data is still being entered multiple times across multiple different platforms. A geologist might log data in the field only for someone else to re-enter it into another system later. Formats vary, logging codes differ, validation is often inconsistent or happens too late in the process. Every time data is handled manually, the risk of error increases, and those errors compound. Small inconsistencies can turn into larger issues when data sets are merged, analyzed, or used for reporting. Teams end up spending valuable time cleaning and reconciling data instead of using it. So when we step back and look at the full picture, we see a pattern. We have disconnected teams, delayed data access, and inconsistent manual workflows, and the impact is significant. Decisions are slower, confidence in data is reduced, and ultimately the ability to respond quickly and effectively in the field is compromised. This is where logchief Lite and datashed 5 come into play. These products are designed to fundamentally improve how drilling data is captured, managed, and shared. First, we have integrated drilling data workflows. Instead of relying on separate systems for logging, sampling, and data management, logchief Lite and datashed 5 bring these functions together. Field data collection and office-based data management are no longer isolated activities. They are part of the same continuous process. Both logchief Lite and datashed 5 match the underlying database structure, and automations are built to replicate this structure. This integration removes duplication. It reduces the need for data handoffs, and it ensures that everyone is working with a consistent framework. When field teams and office teams are aligned in this way, coordination improves naturally, communication becomes cleaner, and the overall workflow becomes smoother and more efficient. Second, real-time data capture and synchronization. One of the most powerful aspects of logchief Lite and datashed 5 are the ability to capture data and make it available almost immediately to the office. As data is logged, it can be synced to a central system. Geologists, engineers, and managers can access that data in near real time, regardless of their location. And this changes the dynamic completely. Instead of waiting for data to arrive, teams can monitor progress as it happens. They can see what's coming out of the ground today, not yesterday, not last week, but right now. And that real-time visibility enables faster, more informed decisions. If something unexpected shows up in the data, it can be identified early. Plans can be adjusted quickly, opportunities can be acted upon immediately. It turns the workflow from reactive to proactive. Third, we've got standardized and validated data. Logchief Lite, datashed 5, and any related automations enforce structure at the point of entry. They use predefined templates, logging codes, and validation rules to ensure that the data is collected consistently. This is critical because the earlier you ensure data quality, the less time you spend fixing problems later. Errors can be flagged immediately, missing values can be identified on the spot, inconsistent formats can be prevented altogether. The result is a data set that is cleaner, more reliable, and ready for analysis from the moment it's captured. And when everyone is working with the same standards, data becomes much easier to integrate, compare, and interpret. The first major benefit of this is faster turnaround from drilling to insights. When data flows seamlessly from the field or laboratory to the office, and when it is already validated and standardized, the time between collection and interpretation is dramatically reduced. Teams can move quickly from raw data to meaningful insights. This speed is not just convenient, it's strategic. In exploration, timing can influence everything from drilling decisions to resource allocation. Being able to quickly act on new information can make a significant difference in outcomes. The second benefit is reduced operational delays. By removing those manual steps, minimizing duplication, and improving coordination, datashed 5 streamlines the entire workflow. Field teams spend less time managing data and more time focused on drilling and logging. Office teams spend less time chasing information and more time analyzing it. Bottlenecks are reduced, processes are smoother, and the overall operation becomes more efficient. This efficiency translates into cost savings, better resource utilization, and improved project timelines. The third benefit is improved data quality, leading to better informed decisions. When your data is consistent, validated, and reliable, it becomes a strong foundation for decision making. You can trust what you're seeing. And that trust is essential when decisions carry significant financial and operational implications. High quality data reduces uncertainty, it improves the accuracy of interpretations, and it supports a more confident evidence-based decisions. But beyond those individual benefits, there's a broader impact. Datashed 5 helps shift the way organizations think about data. Instead of viewing data management as a necessary overhead, it becomes a strategic capability. It enables better collaboration between teams. It supports more agile workflows, and it creates an environment where information flows freely and efficiently. In short, it helps organizations operate smarter. At maxgeo, we're not just managing data, we're enabling faster, more reliable exploration decisions. And in an industry where every decision counts, that's a powerful advantage. Thanks. I'll pass on to Lenore now.
Good morning, and thanks, Karen. Today, I want to talk about something that sits in the midst of every data-driven organisation in resources and mining, and that's assay data. More importantly, how we manage it. Because while assays are fundamental, the way they're handled is often anything but efficient, whether from the field to the laboratory or to the database. Let's start with the problem. Assay data workflows today are often slowed down by manual processes, much like Karen discussed with drilling. There's data errors, poor procedures, delays, and lack of accountability and transparency. Data goes to and comes back from laboratories in different formats through different channels, sometimes emails, sometimes portals, sometimes flat files. From there, teams are left to manually import, transform, and reconcile that data into their systems. This creates a few challenges. First, the manual processes, such as bagging and collecting samples from the field and then submitting the samples to the laboratory. Sample submissions are often handwritten and sent with the samples. Secondly, the errors related to manual handling, which introduces risk, whether it's sample mix-up, incorrect insertion of standards, incorrect mappings of sample submissions, or other simple human mistakes. And thirdly, poor field and operational procedures and workflows can make both of those first 2 points above worse than they need to be. It is imperative proper procedures and workflows, such as field manuals and cheat sheets, are completed and followed to minimise manual handling and other potential data errors. Then there's time delays. Valuable data might sit untouched for hours or days before it's unusable if processes that can be are not fully or partially automated. And finally, the lack of accountability and transparency. It's often unclear where an assay is in its life cycle. Has it been received? Have they been validated, approved, or integrated? And who's responsible? So what we end up is potential bottlenecks. Firstly, in getting the field samples efficiently to the lab, and secondly, after the results have left the lab itself, in the movement and the trust of assay data after it leaves the laboratory. For the purposes of today, I'll only be discussing the assay results bottleneck solution. Let's discuss the maxgeo solution. Datashed 5. At its core, it's about removing delays from the assay data pipeline, from lab to database and decisions. Firstly, automated lab integrations. Instead of relying on manual downloads and uploads, Datashed 5 connects directly with laboratories. Data flows in automatically as soon as it's available, either directly from emails or via APIs. No chasing files, no reformatting spreadsheets, and no manual handling. Secondly, streamlined data importing and validation occurs. As the data enters the system, it's not just stored, it's checked, it's validated, and it's standardized. That means format consistency. If the supplied assay files retain their original format, they will all load in seamlessly. Data integrity checks. QC rules are applied for each laboratory that are checked on import. And if all the rules are satisfied, the batch passes and enters directly into the database for immediate use. Immediate flagging of anomalies or errors, if the said QC rules fail or are queried, are then flagged to the relevant personnel for review, and either the batch is rejected and the results are reassayed, or it is approved and directly loaded into the database, again available for immediate use. Note that all queried batches need a comment as to why it is approved or rejected. So instead of discovering issues days later, you can catch them instantly. QC rules checks for variations and blanks or standards outside of expected parameters. And if any duplicates or repeats are compared to the original result, to flag if there's any discrepancies outside of a specified difference. Additional QC checks for sizing metrics can also be included. Datashed 5 also has mechanisms to set data masks for laboratory QC that allows for immediate insertion of the relevant laboratory IDs into their respective standards or QC tables for immediate processing. Parameters for checking client field inserted QC checks can differ from those for laboratory QC checks, because quite often laboratory checks should have tighter parameters applied than field inserted checks. So in a perfect world, the assay batch will pass directly into the database and be available for immediate use once it is received from the laboratory. No waiting. How Datashed 5 operates. A lab completes an assay batch. Within moments, the data is automatically ingested into Datashed 5 via email or API. Validation rules are applied instantly, the QC rules we discussed before. Any issues are flagged in real time, approve or reject. If passed or approved, clean data is pushed directly into your operational database immediately. No manual touch points, full visibility at every step. You know exactly where your data is and whether it's ready to use. The value of datashed 5. There are three key outcomes of this process. First, faster assay turnaround. By eliminating manual steps and delays, data moves from the lab to decision makers significantly faster. What used to take days can now happen in near real time. Secondly, reduced manual effort and fewer errors. Automation removes repetitive tasks and the risks that come with them. Your team spends less time handling data and more time analysing it. Thirdly, immediately available for use. That's the big one. Data's not just arriving faster, it's arriving ready to use, which means geologists, analysts and decision makers can act on it straight away with confidence. This matters because when your assay data is fast, reliable and fully integrated, you enable better decisions across the board quickly. Exploration teams can respond more quickly. Operations can optimise in near real time. Leadership can trust the data they're seeing because the real value isn't in just collecting data, it's how quickly and confidently you can use it. So just to finish off, datashed 5 assay management takes something that's traditionally been slow, manual and opaque and turns it into fast, automated and a transparent process. And in doing so, it helps organisations move from reacting data to truly using it. Thank you. And now I'll hand over to Mikey.
Thanks, Anomaly. Morning, everyone. Finally, I want to talk about our land monitoring solution, specifically on how it can be used to your benefit by getting reliable alerts that give you real visibility and help reduce your compliance risk at the same time. So let's start with how it actually works. So our global land monitoring system is updated daily. Right now, we pull in comprehensive data from all across Australia and Canada. We're constantly expanding into new jurisdictions as government data becomes freely available and reliable. The system relies on government's own public portals and the data within them. So we're pulling in the most up-to-date information that they release, which is usually every day. Once you give us your area of interest, it's very simple. You provide your shapefile, your existing tenement polygons, or a buffer zone around them. And you can even provide us one big polygon of an area that you want to look at. We load that into our system once, and from then on, it runs every day in the background. So every single day, the system performs comparison scans spatially. It looks at yesterday's data versus today's data and flags any changes, new applications, surrenders, grants, withdrawals, any changes in status, or anything else that appears or disappears within your area of interest. As soon as these changes are detected, you get a clear email alert. You can choose how often you want to see them, whether that's daily or weekly, or even monthly summaries. The alerts are customizable to match exactly what you want to monitor. For example, you might see an alert like one on the screen here, which is showing a newly granted tenement inside the Northern Territory. So this sort of early visibility is gold for explorers and consultants alike when they're trying to pick up ground. So what does all of this actually mean for you on the ground? Let's talk about the real benefits and the use cases. So first, early morning alerts. So for Western Australian clients, we normally send these out about 6 a.m., which is deliberately timed before most government websites are fully updated or the office is open. So depending on your time zone, we can adjust the delivery of that alert. So if you're in Canada, we can adjust the time zone accordingly. The timing is a game changer for explorers and consultants. Surrenders often get released late afternoon on the previous day, which gives people until around 8:30 a.m. the next morning to lodge new applications. So our alerts can land on your inbox hours before that window so that you have time to review the ground and act often before your competitors know that it's happening. Many of our clients use these alerts specifically to pick up dropped or surrendered tenements before anyone else has. Second, the compliance risk reduction. The system can automatically notify you about upcoming expiry dates, renewal dates, and any other dates that you want to track. It acts as an extra safety net on top of your existing tenement management team. Even your geological teams can stay ahead of what's happening on government systems. If something looks off, a crossover, or a date that doesn't look correct, you're able to quickly check that with your tenure team and fix it before it becomes that problem. Third, we have tailored reports. We don't just send out generic alerts. We can build the reports to show exactly what you care about. So in Western Australia, for example, there is a huge amount of available data at mineral titles online. We can set up daily or weekly reports to show competitor expenditure, whether tenements are being actively spent on in terms of that expenditure versus which ones are not being spent on, dealings, monitoring, exemptions, or any other activity that you want to track that is available in the public data sets. It's incredibly useful if you're watching a competitor's ground, or if you're looking at opportunities to approach companies that might be open to selling their tenements, or even joint venturing them in those tenements that aren't getting much attention. Overall, the biggest value our clients talk about is being able to move from reactive to proactive. So instead of finding out weeks later that something important happened in your area, you get alerted first, and you can proactively apply for new ground, monitor your surrounding tenure, protect your own assets, and stay on top of compliance, all with very minimal effort. We've seen this used successfully by 3 main groups. We've had success with small to mid-sized explorers that are chasing new ground, geos and in-house tenure teams when they're managing their own compliance, and even native title groups who just want to look at what's going on in their area of Western Australia and in the whole of Australia. So that wraps up my overview of the land monitoring system. Thank you very much for listening to this session on creating value through integrated solutions. We've kept it quite short and practical so you can see exactly how it all works and where we can help you. We'd now love to open it up to questions. So if you have any questions that you've popped into the chat, please let us know and we'll see if we can answer them live on screen. If we can't answer them right now, we can certainly reach out to you afterwards and follow up with that one. You can see one from Mona here. What systems do you commonly integrate with in mining environments? Is that directed at any specific one of our solutions, Mona?
So we have dsCONNECT, which our clients are using to link into, all sorts of things, Leapfrog, IOGAS, QGIS, yeah.
All the API too.
Sorry?
You've got the API for QGIS as well.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll leave it open just a little bit longer and then we'll end the meeting there. If you do have any other questions that you want to reach out to us, you can do so after the webinar is complete, and we're happy to respond to any of those. Thank you very much for joining us for this webinar, and hopefully you have a wonderful day.